Hello and welcome on how to master Imola on F122. I'm going to be showing you all my little tips, tricks and little secrets on how to master this wonderful track. Of course, steeped in history in real life motorsport as well. Requires a high speed, flowing, precise driving style here. The curbs are brutal, but if you learn to master them, you're going to gain a lot of lap time. So, with that being said, let's jump into it. So now you join us on track for Imola. Coming up to the final corners, what you want to be doing here is setting your ERS, fuel level, brake bias and differential settings ahead of the lap, maximizing every possibility to gain lap time on the car settings. The final corner, what you're going to be doing is on this entry curve is opening up the corner as much as possible, turning for a late apex. Up to 5th gear if you need it, to short shift, and using up the curb on the right hand side. Now bring the car over to the left hand side for qualifying trim, because the little secret here is using a few more meters of run up before you open up DRS, and more critically before you get to the start finish line. What that's going to do is gain you a few thousandths of speed down the straight, but you know, we want every thousandth we can get, so it's critical to gain that lap time. The straight here isn't really a straight, it's a little kink to the right and a little kink to the left. So what you want to be doing is keeping the car as straight as possible to minimize friction down the straight. Now what you're going to be doing as we reach the 150 meter board is pointing the car straight, absolutely straight as an arrow towards that 50 meter board is your target. Because what that's going to do is bring you all the way to this right hand side on the red part of the curb to open up the track as much as possible for this tricky, technical, absolute sensational chicane. I love attacking this corner. So first apex, aim for the white part of the curb. Second apex, aim for the white part of the curb again. Use up all the track on the left hand side. Now this little left hander should be flat out come qualifying trim. If it isn't, you've wheel span and you've overheated the rear tyres, so you need to bring it back a little bit on your aggression levels. Now coming up to the chicane, what you're going to be doing is opening up the corner all the way on this red part of the curb, turning in at the 50 meter board and hitting the white part of the curb. Keep the car to the middle of the track to open up the right hander, hit the white part of the curb again and use up all the curb on the left hand side. Using track width around Imola is critical. It's super high speed but super tight of a track, so every millimeter of track width you can gain is critical to performance. Coming up to chicane, brake at the 50 meter board as well. Down into 4th gear, looking for a late apex. Do not hit the curb on the inside here. Now short shift to 5th if you need to, but use up all the curb on the outside here. Absolutely critical. The curb has a bit more grip than you expect, so using that bit more track width to get on the power a few meters earlier will give you absolute critical lap time. Now up over the crest of the hill, and you'll be looking for the critical left-hander. Dabble the brakes, hit the white part of the curb once again. That's my favorite part of the curb on this track, and using up all the track width, but making sure you do not go wide over that white line, because this game is very sensitive for track limits there, and you will get an invalidation. Flying down the hill into Aqua Minerale, and you'll be using up all the curb on the left-hand side. And what I like to do is start to turn in when this part of AstroTurf is ending, because what that does is gives me a perfect lineup for the first part of the apex. And this first part of the apex is all about setting up the braking point for the middle of the corner and the second apex. So in qualifying, I like to be just touching this green part of the curb, because when the car has speed and is fully loaded, what it does is make the car nice and straight for this part of the braking, and you can be really focused on maximizing braking potential and braking stability as well. Consistency is key to gain confidence around here, and for me this gave me a lot more confidence to brake in this line and trajectory going ahead into this next apex. And again, be hitting any part of this curb that you can hit, really, because it's so difficult, but aiming for the white part of the curb if possible, but anywhere on the curb is good. Just make sure not to hit those yellow Sotters curbs. Again, on the exit, do not hit the yellow Sotters curbs. They will cost you a lot of lap time, but because it's uphill here, and for what people don't know, when you're going downhill, a general rule is when you're going downhill, you have less grip because the car becomes more unloaded. When you're going uphill, the car becomes more loaded. So you get more grip, basically. So anytime you're going uphill, there's more grip. Every time you're going downhill, there's less grip. But the exit is beautiful here because it's fairly medium speed. You're in a fairly high gear, and you're going uphill quite a lot on the exit, so you get so much traction. So short shift it into 5th, and you can see fully hard on the power, using up all the curb on the left hand side possible, and then keeping the car straight on the exit for an arrow to maximize traction. If you need to run the car out naturally over this curb on the right hand side, do it if you need to. If you have the traction not to, you can save a few more meters either way. But either way, it's all about maximizing your traction potential at the corner to gain lap time. Now, coming up into a tricky chicane, what you're going to be doing is braking the 50-meter board and braking all the way on the left-hand side of this curb to open up the braking zone and open up the angle of the chicane. Now, this is very critical. So you can see that there's like two parts of the curb, basically. The red, white, and green, and the yellow. You want to be attacking this yellow curb as much as possible, all the way up to the white line. So basically, you want your trajectory of the curb to be sat like this. You can see that my left tires are just touching the white line. So it's just about in bounds for the track limits, but giving me the best opportunity to open up this left-hander after. Left-hander is all about not using the pull the curb on the inside, but you can see using a bit more of the flatter curb, because what you want to be doing now is gaining traction and making sure by the time we reach this part of the exit curb, the car is completely straight. And now you should be gaining traction back. So as soon as you have traction, pull the car over to the left-hand side of the track to minimize distance. Once again, it's a theme on this game that you really want to minimize distance to gain lap time. Any thousandth you can gain is critical. Now, coming down into the final two corners, you can see keeping the car hugged to the left-hand side right now, because what we're trying to do is open up this right-hander kink. It's blind at the moment. Only now does the braking zone become into our vision. So now what we start doing is underneath the bridge, turn to the right, and now we're going to be keeping the car in a straight line. If you can, if you have the confidence to, brake on the curb as well. It's quite difficult as it has less traction. So if you're not so confident, get used to the braking point on the track fully. But if you want to maximize lap time, start braking on the curb. That black board on the right hand side, you can see by the 50-meter board, is where our braking point will be for this corner. And you can see braking on the curb, and there's no real turning reference for this corner. But what's critical here is to turn in when you feel the time is right, but to never lock that inside left tire. You're going downhill. It's like the rule that I was explaining before. When you're going downhill, you have less grip. So you're going to start turning in. You're going to find it quite easy to lock that inside tire. My favorite approach through here is to actually only hit the green part of the curb. I don't like hitting anything more of the curb because I find it unsettles the car a little bit too much and overheats the rear tires before the final corner. Exiting the second to last corner, you'll be fully on the curb on the right hand side, and then you'll be keeping the car in a straight line, preparing the final corner. And you can see when this part of the curb at AstroTurf ends is where you're going to be turning in. I personally always prefer to avoid this curb on the inside, especially on a qualifying lap, because I found it gave me more confidence, consistency, and gave me a better exit onto the straight. But I've seen other people use the curb as well, and they seem equally as fast by doing it. So whatever your preference there is, there's no real difference. If you use the curb on the inside, you're going to get a worse exit. If you don't use it, you're going to get a better exit. So it all depends on your driving style and what you like from the car. Naturally, on the exit, use up all the curb as well. And if it was a qualifying lap, what you're going to be doing is a bit different to how you opened up the lap. You're going to be hugging this inside line as much as possible. Make sure you open up DRS, and you can see there's a bit of this painted curb, not even a curb, this painted road, and you'll be hugging that as much as possible, because it might gain you a thousandth of two, but a thousandth of two is always worth having. So that has been my 7-minute and 39-second lap around Imola. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to jump into me doing actual hot lap of Imola to try and show you some of the lines and techniques in real time, and hopefully you have found this useful. So there we have it. Imola is now ticked off the box, and we'll be heading to Silverstone for the next video. So if you enjoyed this video, you found it helpful, post below in the comments about how you found it helpful. Be sure to like the video as well and subscribe for the next episodes coming up shortly. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys and girls next time. Ciao, ciao.